How do we start this? All right, welcome to the Creation to Cash Flow podcast. On this podcast, we discuss strategies to help content creators and entrepreneurs improve your mindset so you could go make more money and achieve financial freedom. This is episode 98. Oh my God, we're so close to 100. I can't even believe it. And we have such a good one for you guys today. But before that, we have some very important things to discuss. Michelle, how's it going?
I was like, what do we have to discuss? It's really good. Ollie is squeaking his toy away, so we'll see if the mic picks it up. Things are good. I can't complain. It's a beautiful day. I'm getting tan because I keep prioritizing going and laying in the sun, thanks to Nick. And I just feel like sometimes I get so used to living here that I don't, use the amenities or maximize the space here. And so I've been leaving on purpose and I feel really good about it. I feel like it's resetting my baseline almost that we've talked about in previous episodes. So I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I also want to address that too. That's totally human nature to like, you move to a place, you're excited about all these amenities and you don't use them. And every time I go travel or to a thing, like I am the amenities king. Anytime I'm there, like every single day I try to spend at least an hour at the pool and like it's just built into me that like everyone always is like, Nick, you kind of reminded me that like there's a lot of good things around here that I don't use. Like I'm always that person that's helping other people just remind themselves like you got a lot of great stuff here. I'm going to use it because you're not. So I'm so happy that you've been tanning. Um, I'm doing so wonderful myself. I'm in Costa Rica prep mode. Got my flights there, leaving in like 3 weeks, staying in a hell of an Airbnb. It's insane looking, super excited. I'm trying to just get my body and my mind right because it's different there for sure. Like I'm still integrating lessons from my last trip. Gonna spend some time with Jose, live on his mountain a little bit too, swim in his waterfalls. Just so much cool stuff planned. Um, and I can't wait. But it's a lot. I'm trying to cold plunge daily. I'm trying to sauna daily. Like, really got to get ready for this. And I'm trying to get as much sun on me as I can so I don't cook. Hit a tanning bed for the first time, even though that's not super good for you. Only reason I haven't ever is because I know how much I will love it. But it's culture here. It really is. There's like tanning places on every corner. So just for this trip, I'm just giving myself a little bit of color. Hopefully, it doesn't become a habit. Hold me to that.
I used to use a tanning bed like daily in Texas. So I grew up using them. Like I was 16. I had the oh my God, the little like Playboy bunny and the heart little sticker. So it would like tan into your skin. Oh
Yep.
my gosh. That was me. That was how I grew up. I will not step foot in one anymore, but I'm also like basking in the sun. So I'm like, I don't even know if that's better than the tanning bed. I'm sure people listening are like, Michelle, no, tanning bed cancer bad, but whatever.
Yeah, it's true. Getting real sun is the best, obviously. But anyway, we'll get right into it because we have such a good episode for y'all. We're talking analysis paralysis today. We got a great question from one of our listeners about this. I can't believe we haven't done an episode on this. We've touched on the topic, but never a full episode. And oh my God, has this been coming up a lot lately? So let's listen to what our one of our lovely listeners had to say.
Yes, and I appreciate this listener so much. Jess, she's amazing. She's always tagging us in her stories. So I just want to give her a shout out and thank her because I don't think she realizes how much that motivates me and encourages me every single day I see something. So thank you, Jess, and thanks for sending this in.
Yes, and by the way, before we play it, y'all, I guess two things to unpack there. One, we love when you guys put us on our story, when you comment on our social media posts, stuff like that. Like truly, we don't ask for your money. This is episode 98. We don't ask for your money. We ask for your love and support because we do this for you guys. 98 weeks in a row, we've been doing it. So make sure you give us that 5-star rating if you've been meaning to. Pause the video or podcast right now, go just press the 5-star button, type something up super quick. You could be super brief. Tell us why you love the show. It really helps us grow it, and that's our main goal right now. So Other thing to unpack, if you want to submit a question, just go to creation2cashflow.com and you could do this too. Don't be scared. You don't have to say your name if you are like, if that's holding you back. We like to know your name. We like to know where you're leaving this message from. But realistically, if you just want to be anonymous and just drop a question, go ahead. And if you mess it up, just resubmit. Super easy. We won't play it if you make a mistake, or we'll just cut it out. So, anyway, that's y'all's homework. Get to it. And let's hear what Jess has to say.
Hey guys, it's Jess from BMC, and I just have kind of a random question. I know Michelle had spoken about, I believe, how she has ADHD, and I'm just wondering how, if you guys have ever experienced this or know anyone that has ADHD paralysis. I'm finding that the more inbounds I'm getting and the more UGC deals I'm getting, I'm so excited about it, but I'm overwhelmed, and then I get into this area of I just can't do anything. Like ADHD paralysis sets in, and I'm just sitting at my computer knowing what I have to do, but I can't physically do it. So I'm not sure if you guys have either experienced this or not, but if you have, that'd be great if you could talk about it. Thanks. Love you guys.
That was an awesome one.
Oh God, I could talk about this for literal hours.
Yeah, that's why I wrapped up the small talk, because we could have went for a while, but this is a topic that I wanted to save some time for, because oh my goodness, this is a big one. And it's not just like she called it ADHD paralysis. I mean, if she has ADHD, she might know it as that. But I can tell you, this is something everyone has. It might be worse if you have ADHD. Michelle, I'll let you speak to that. But what I could tell you is that analysis paralysis, everyone gets this. And it can happen when things are going well and you're paralyzed by good opportunities, or when things are going bad and you feel like life just keeps kicking you while you're down. You can still get analysis paralysis. In this episode, we're going to talk about that and help you guys fix it.
Yeah, and it is worse with ADHD. So people with ADHD, and I can say this because I have it, we really struggle with executive function. Like we have a much lower executive function than most people. And so of course it makes making decisions a lot more difficult. It makes transitioning from one energy and thing you're doing to another a lot more difficult. I have found ways to optimize this. I have found ways to get better. Of course, I'm going to talk about that on this episode, but I do want you to know, Nick, like I know you don't have it, so you can only like hear from me, but it is way more difficult with ADHD. And there are some other like cognitive things that people have that might not be ADHD that makes this harder for people. But I will say, if you do have ADHD, if you just learn how to just tweak a few things in your life, you are going to thrive. And I can say that because I have done it. So I'm excited to talk about this and unpack it, because it's not something that holds us back. It's not something that has to hold us back, you know?
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying just from knowing you so well. Um, but I honestly get this too. And I used to get it pretty bad, especially as I was trying to balance full-time civil engineering job, content creation, building a life coaching business as a 21/22 year old, and also building Brands Meet Creators. And I was doing a yoga teacher training too at one point. I was doing all of those things. That was pretty paralyzing for sure. On top of the fact that, like, if someone sent me one email, I would explode. Like, I would be like, oh my God, this is so much happening. And it becomes very easy to jump into bed for a quick 6 hour nap and pretend that none of those things are happening, and to find ways to distract ourselves and cope. So there's a lot of strategies we're going to kind of uncover here. Michelle, where are you feeling inspired to start?
Ooh, Nick, you're the outline guy.
Okay.
I just say things as they come to my, I need a prompt. Because I could, okay, this is the thing, Nick. With ADHD, I can only hold one thing in my head at a time. And you know this about me. You know this is how I work. I like prioritize one thing and then I hyper focus on it, and then everything else can't work, which is why I can't reply to texts. I can't reply to emails, because it's like, unless I'm in text mode or email mode, it is not coming and infiltrating what I'm doing. And so I need you to help guide this, because I cannot with the way I am wired. And I can say that, and this is why I don't get overwhelmed and analysis paralysis as much because I know who I am and I'm able to communicate that to the people around me.
Okay, cool. This is perfect because you kind of uncovered two topics. One, blocking things out and saying no to things, right? I pretty much just asked Michelle a question and she said, nope, fuck no, not right now. Because of the way she's wired. And that honestly is like a perfect first lesson to talk about is you got to block things out and you got to say no to things. We're doing a podcast. I said, Michelle, what do you think? You said, nope, not happening.
That's crazy.
In all seriousness, I mean, it's not like, you could say that. You're in a safe place to say that, but like, it's true. You're really good at this, Michelle. This is one of your strong suits, saying no to things and blocking things out, cutting out distractions. So tell us, like, we know you got the notifications off. That right there. We've talked about it a lot of times, but real quick, just re-emphasize the importance of that.
Oh gosh. So because there's always so much going on in my head, and when I have to do something, I just hyper focus on that. If I have even a text message, a ding, anything like that, it will immediately draw billions of other thoughts to my head, and it will completely take my energy away from what I'm doing. So I'm on do not disturb 24/7. There are now, it took a couple years, it used to be no one could reach me. Now 6 people are able to reach me when I'm on do not disturb. And then when I'm in class, like acting school for 12 hours a week, I have class mode where no one can reach me at all. So I have these little focus modes, right? Because I know there are times whenever if a single sound comes in, it will take my attention away from what I'm doing. And so it's so important to know whenever you need no distractions and then how you can best utilize that time without distractions to be productive rather than like try to space out and stuff like that. So yeah, do not disturb, focus mode on your iPhone. It's life-changing for sure.
There's so many options you could do. Like I love that you have these different classes of it. I do too. Like I have one. I use it for more than just yoga, but anything self-development related, I just call it yoga and I turn it on. No one can reach me. No notification can happen. And that one is like my saving grace. And I started doing that because of you. You told me how important do not disturb is, and it truly makes such a big difference. But cutting out all forms of distractions too. Like you don't work with the TV on.
No, oh my God. I don't turn it on unless I have a productive day and I feel like, okay, I can now watch something.
Yeah, but a lot of people do. Like they like to eat with the TV on. They like to try and work with the TV on. Like these things, they only make the problem a little bit worse. You need to cut out all the distractions you can because like Michelle mentioned, one notification can pull you out of your zone of genius. We have a whole episode where we talk about that, about getting in the zone and how easy it is to be pulled out. It takes like 15 or 20 minutes to get back in the zone. And imagine you have your notifications on or your phone too close to you, you're going to be pulled out of the zone constantly and you're going to have analysis paralysis because you're not actually getting anything done and you're being paralyzed not by your own fault, but because you didn't set proper boundaries around you when it's time to get some work done.
Yeah, and it's even for like looking, even if you're not getting notifications, some people just subconsciously go to their social media and like look at their notifications to see if they're getting anything. That's another form of distraction. Like 2 days ago in the morning, I woke up and I was like, hey, can you help me move these water jugs, Evan? I want to post a video. I have, this thing, I think it's cool. I did not look at my phone until last night and I had like almost 300,000 views on it. And I was like, oh, and I had all these comments and I was like, like if I would have known that during the day, I would have just focused on making follow-up videos and doing all these things. Yes, it could be helpful, but like it's not like this thing is getting me much commission. It's not an urgent and important task, but I would easily be distracted by it. And I'm glad that I didn't go check to see how it was performing. We've had podcast episodes about that where I talk about how I don't check the performance all the time. I just post and I move on to my next task because I can control what I do, not how something performs. So that's another thing that people do is they go check notifications and emails in their time whenever they could be doing something with that time. Unless obviously you need to be checking emails, then yes, like do your job. But like I have somebody that does that,
And even before you had people helping with some of those things, like you were always looking for ways to outsource anything you do that's not extremely necessary. So what I recommend is do an audit of all the things that you do in a day and whether they are necessary or not, or whether there's something you could do to make it easier. Like, for example, laundry. I lose a lot of time to laundry, so I just started using one of those services where they come to my apartment, pick up my laundry, they go clean it, they bring it back in a day, sometimes two, and it is perfectly clean and folded better than I would ever do. And these things are not as expensive as you would think. Like, I, for a long time, told myself that, like, oh, I'll do that one day. I'll do that one day. I started doing it. Three like large loads cost me like $40, maybe. Like, it's not that expensive. But when you think about what I do with that time, it's very easy to either make up the $40 or just recharge myself, do something good for me that allows me to then make up that money by showing up better in the other important work activities that I do.
Yeah, like cooking. Since November 2022, this is February 2025, I've been doing Factor. Every single week it gets delivered to my apartment and I just heat it up for 2 minutes at dinner and then I can continue working. That way I don't stop. And I've started to like to cook again. We've talked about that. I've been cooking every now and then. And to me, it's more of a luxury. Like, I make time to cook and I use it as not something I have to do, but instead I do have these meals that are prepped and ready for me and portioned out. But like the other night, Evan came home after being gone for 4 days. So I made him his favorite dinner and he got home and he got to like first shower off all the military smells because he was out in the woods. But then he had his dinner that I made him and it was just like, that was a luxury and I made time for it because I got all my stuff done. So many people see things as like, oh, I have to do this. This is a task that I have to do. But there are ways to outsource so you can spend your energy and time doing things that make you money and make you happy rather than things that you just feel like you have to do as an adult, which I had to learn, the hard way.
What is Evan's favorite meal that you made?
Spaghetti.
Classic.
He loves spaghetti. It's like his favorite thing in the world. And I'm not a huge fan of red sauce, but I'll eat the Rayos, like I make it, with Rayos or whatever. So, yep, spaghetti.
Classic. I love that. Evan deserves all the spaghetti. Right now, like on my to-do list, I literally just wrote this, is like hire a cleaning service because I'm getting crushed these days by dishes because I cook a lot because I don't want to say I'm picky with food. I'll eat whatever, but I'm picky with ingredients. And that's where it gets me that like I can't just like order Domino's, like I don't put anything in my body that's not going to be good for it. And I can't always go out to like the nice fancy seed oil free restaurant because that also takes up a ton of time. So hire a cleaning service and maybe food service. Like I'm going to price out a chef too, because again, like I used to lie and tell myself that these things are so expensive. They're not. Like to have someone come to your home and cook once, maybe twice per week, plus bring the ingredients, it's actually not that expensive at all. These people just work at an hourly rate. And if you're going to save 2 hours and only have to pay them for 2 hours, it's actually not that insane. And I used to make up reasons that I couldn't do these things or couldn't afford these things. And my biggest regret is that I just didn't start doing them sooner, because you could always cut $40 worth of spending on bullshit to hire the laundry service. Like you could always find ways to stop spending on things you don't need. Cancel one monthly subscription that you've got and like, boom, you're probably already there.
Yeah, like my mobile detailer that comes to my apartment complex. He goes to my parking spot. I unlock my car from my phone app. Don't even have to see him. He cleans it inside and out. Everything is detailed, cleaned, $45, $55 with tip. $45, and I didn't even have to move from what I was doing. I can Venmo him later. Like it's not even time consuming. I just have to spend time asking him when to come and then make sure that, honestly, Evan unlocks the door because I don't have my notifications on. So he just unlocks it through our phone app. So it's just like, that is another thing that's so simple. So is my cleaner. But one thing I will say is that for tasks you do, like for me, I have a housekeeper, but she doesn't do my dishes or my laundry. Like I hire her to deep clean. I will film when I clean and I turn that into a piece of content. And this is what I've been doing. And that's honestly, my clean with me videos are probably right now the top performing content I have on Instagram. And so it's like, you can utilize that, and then you could do UGC, like say that you have a product that you clean with, incorporate that. I do a lot of my product placement videos in my clean with me videos. That way I'm still getting paid for that collab, yet I'm still cleaning, yet I'm still having a piece of content to post on social media. Boom. It's like utilizing that time and optimizing it to be productive and effective without it taking so much away from me.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Let's move on to one of our next, essentially, strategies to deal with analysis paralysis. Um, I'm gonna. This one might be more of a hot take, I guess. Depends a little bit on the person and the task, but for me, emotional detachment is really, really important sometimes because being real, like a lot of the stuff that we feel like paralyzes us, it's just stuff that we don't really want to do. Like, we're not all blessed to have a to do list that is full of like things that excite you. Sometimes it's stuff that you don't want to do, and that plays into the analysis paralysis. So you have to learn how to emotionally detach and just get shit done, whether you feel like doing it or not. And for me, cold water literally changed the way that my brain is wired and allowed me to emotionally detach from stuff I don't want to do because it just toughens you up. Like, no one ever wants to take a cold shower. I could promise you that. But like today, this morning, I took a super cold shower just because it's so good for me. Like, I hate it. Oh my god, it's awful. And in this new apartment, my water gets so cold. It's crazy. I can't even go all the way. And like I mean I don't like it, but like I like torturing myself with the cold water a little bit. And I can't even go all the way because it gets so cold, but like it just toughens me up. Like, you got to voluntarily do stuff you don't want to do like that's hard. And then it's very easy to be like, all right, well, if I did a cold shower, like that that was very difficult. Answering these emails feels a lot easier now. And it's also a big win. Like, it doesn't take long, but you accomplish this big, difficult thing. And now all of a sudden, the other things that you were avoiding, they feel pretty small.
Well, it also gives you a slow release of dopamine as well. And so it's important to do that, especially in the mornings. Like, I bathe off every morning. I don't wash my hair every day. I wash it like once a week. But I will bathe off in the morning just to get, like, I slept, I change clothes, I shower. I always, and I'm not as good as Nick, but I always spend the last 10 seconds super freezing cold water, and I count to 10. I'm literally like 10, 9, and I'm sitting there like holding my breath, but it always, the next 2 hours is like heaven. It's like I have all this dopamine, I feel good, I feel refreshed and clean. And then after like the first like hour or 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, I'll then have coffee because the dopamine starts to kind of dwindle. And that's just what I do. But it is, I mean, Nick's right. Like, starting your day with that, even if you're splashing your face with cold water, that is going to be super helpful for you for an hour or two after that, because you're able to get this dopamine and adrenaline and all that. That's what you need to feel motivated to do the tasks, right? So if you're just depleted, of course you're not going to want to do the hard things. So you have to do things to yourself to get the natural dopamine. I'm not saying get on your phone. You don't want to get a spike. You don't want it to be a very quick dopamine thing, because then you're going to have a quick crash. You want it to be something that's a natural, like a cold shower, a cold splash on the face, like exercising, moving your body. You want that to be what's building the dopamine naturally, so that way it can be sustained. That way you could do the things that are paralyzing you from doing the things.
And that discipline that is required spills into every activity you do, because if you try to cut corners, whether that's with how you make your bed or how you answer emails or how long you're doing your cold exposure or the foods that you eat, if you try to cut corners, you are literally wiring your brain to reward itself when you saved time on a task by doing it in a sloppy or less dedicated manner. So you really build so much discipline from cold showers, cold plunging, whatever you have access to. Even if it's just going outside in the cold, you build so much discipline that all of a sudden you will see you're more diligent when you make your bed. When you wash dishes, you are more diligent. Like every little thing improves. So truly, like you got to look yourself in the mirror right now if you're listening to this and be like, because it's not so much a scale. Like you really just be honest with yourself. Like, are you well disciplined? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, that is your solution. It's just a matter of can you at least build up enough discipline to go do it, to do that cold shower, or are you going to skip it? Are you going to listen to this episode and be like, oh, I really should start doing that, but not make any change? And I hope that our listeners do make change. And I hope you guys do take these action steps, whether it's submitting a question, taking a cold shower, or leaving us that review. Like, do you have the discipline to do the things that you know you want to do? And if not, I promise you will have analysis paralysis because you're just not as mentally tough. You're going to look for reasons to distract yourself and procrastinate, and you're going to get scared of hard things. But don't worry, it's not permanent, because that definitely used to be me before I started changing my habits.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the 5-minute rule. Are you familiar with this rule, Michelle?
I am.
To give a little more detail of like how you could potentially implement this 5-minute rule, picture you made a to-do list right now and you're looking at it and you're like, oh my God, I got to answer that one email. That's going to be a difficult one. I got to clean the kitchen. That's going to take probably 45 minutes. Find something that you can do right now that takes less than 5 minutes and just get up and go do it. You'll create so much momentum, and then it will spill into the other things. All of a sudden, like you're like, all right, well, let me just go clean the dishes. That'll only take 4 or 5 minutes. And then you do that and you're like, all right, cool, I got a little momentum. Now let me do the next thing in the kitchen and the next thing and the next thing. Like if it takes less than 5 minutes, just get up and get it done. Because if you don't, and you will sit there and paralyze yourself when you're looking at all the things you have to do and it's overwhelming, you're going to just create a quick win for yourself. Because if you sit there and you're like, you start to literally get paralyzed. What you need is a quick win. And that's why we tell you guys, like, make your bed in the morning. Quick win. Takes less than 5 minutes, and you start your day with that win. The science already proves that you get more done in a day, you have a better day, you have a happier day if you make your bed after you wake up. So do more things that take less than 5 minutes when you're feeling stuck.
Yeah, so this is what a lot of people with ADHD struggle with because we have executive distinction issues. So what happens is whenever we're so focused on something, it's very hard for us to switch modes, right? So what Nick is saying is tying straight into that. We have to fix our body, like we have to start with our bodies doing something to switch us into a different mode. So when I wake up, that's why I change clothes, I hop in the shower. But even if I'm like, I just start by making my bed, I'm immediately first telling my body, okay, now we're getting into go mode. We're no longer in rest mode. We are going, we are doing. And that's how I physically get my brain to then mentally get into doing the things that I know I need to do. So executive distinction, figure out things that help you switch modes. Like if I'm like running and gunning and then I need to stop and slow down and get on my computer, the way I do that is I hop on my treadmill. That helps me get into work mode. I do it every single day. That is how I distinguish, okay, here's what I was doing, now I need to switch modes. That's why it's very hard for me to be social, because sometimes I don't want to go socialize. The thought of like sitting down and having a conversation, I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like I'm in this like other mode right now. I'm in work mode. I can't talk to you. Like my brain can't switch like that. That's a lot of ADHDers problem as well. It's not that I don't want to talk to people. It's just, it's so hard for me to have a meeting if I'm like doing something creative. It's because my brain has to switch modes. It's very difficult. So you have to find things that help you switch into that mode. Start with this thing that takes less than 5 minutes, and then that should get you there. Like if I have to clean, I'll put on a very upbeat song for like a minute, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then I can like switch to a podcast or something.
Oh, that's interesting that you ended that thought the way you did, because I often will put on, like when I'm like, all right, because sometimes I struggle to bring myself to do yoga at home because I prefer to do it in a studio, like a hot yoga studio. It's just better when you're in the heat. Like I get more out of it. But sometimes I'm at home, there's no classes available. And I'm like, all right, I got to just like, I'll just put on like a YouTube, yoga video, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes. I'll put it on 2 minutes in. I'm on my mat. I'm moving. I shut it off. And I'm just like, cool. That's really all I needed. Like, I just needed a little kickstart, you know? So sorry to all the YouTube yogis out there. I'm killing your average watch time. I'm sorry. But truly, like, it helps me. It helps me to just like put on the video, get it started. And then I might be like, honestly, those are not the movements that I need right now. I'm just going to do my own thing. Let me just put the volume on zero or turn it off completely. And it's just enough to kickstart the activity and keep me from getting analysis paralysis of like, well, do I need like a hips and low back today? Do I need this? Do I start lying? Do I like I get analysis paralysis with yoga because like as a former yoga teacher, I haven't been teaching lately. I guess I'm still a yoga teacher, but as someone who used to teach yoga, like I'm over analyzing yoga movements because I'm trying to put on a class for people that are they're going to enjoy it, and every move is going to flow into the next and incorporate your breath and these things. When realistically, what I need just to get my fucking body moving, and it's as simple as that. Put on a 2 minute video, get something going, and then boom, I'm taken care of. I'll do yoga for an hour on my mat, but I just need that little kickstart.
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense. That's why, like, sometimes whenever I'm feeling like groggy or whatever, the a simple song can get me into it, but then I do turn it off. I can only handle so much because it's very stimulating, but I don't need it to keep me stimulated. I need it to get me going. There is one huge thing I also recommend. I don't know if we have another point to make, but I don't want to end this episode or podcast episode without talking about it because this does help me tremendously, but just wanted to let you know. Do you have any last thoughts about the 5 minute rule or the switching?
No, we have one other one, but while this one's fresh on your mind, let's do it before we lose it.
See, Nick knows me because I'm going to be like, I forgot what I was going to say.
Yep.
Okay, the thing is, a lot of times, especially like in the mornings, we wake up, we get done what we need to get done. Maybe if you have kids, you're getting them to school or whatever. And then you have a moment, you have a break, right? I have this, like, for example, right after this podcast, I have a break that I have work to do. I will be like, oh, I just had such a good podcast episode. I will feel like I don't know what to do now because there's a lot I need to get done. If I did not wake up and make a priority list before it's time for me to actually get stuff done, I promise you, this happens a lot on Wednesdays, I will not get shit done the rest of the day. I mean, I will be doing a lot, but nothing will actually focused get done. So this morning, I made my priority list for what I need to do when I'm done with the things that I am doing, like my meetings and my podcast. So you have to make your list before it's time to do what you need to do. So make your to-do list before you have to do the things on your to-do list. Huge difference. And make sure that you also write down what is actually urgent, what is actually important. Like, I need to redo my spice rack thing and like make a new video, right? That is not urgent. I think I can handle my little gorgeous organizer thing on my countertop for a few more days. I need to do it? Yes. Do I need to do it today? No. I have way more important, timely things to do. So it's like, oh, also that would be so satisfying and fun to do. I would just rather like do nothing I have to do and do that, but it's not going to help me. And so it's like, I have it written down. I know it's not going to be forgotten about. I'll put it off to tomorrow or the next day. So it's like, make your priority list and then also figure out what is actually urgent and start with that after you get your 5 minute thing done if you aren't able to even start with that. And also, I know I'm like rambling, but so many times the thing that gets me going when I'm paralyzed is to genuinely walk on my treadmill. I'm not kidding. Or like do a plank on the floor or do some squats or get my dumbbells and do some tricep whatever they're called over your head. What is that called?
Some people call it a French press. It's also like a tricep extension variation.
Yes, that tricep extension. Just anything. Get moving. I think that's the biggest thing for me is when I'm paralyzed, I move because I can, because I'm actually not paralyzed. It's just in my head, you know? Thank God I'm not. Like, I hope that stays the case.
Yes, agreed. Okay, so that's perfect because that kind of is the last topic, I mean, it's almost like we sort of did this outline for the episode together. Um, the way that I phrase it, this is Jocko Willing's terminology for it: prioritize and execute.
Mm-hmm.
The most important skill. Like Michelle just told you all of the important things that happen when you prioritize tasks. When you just have a to do list, it's not, you will feel analysis paralysis because there is no start with this, then do this, then do this, then do this. My favorite way to do a to do list is called an ABCDE list. I will pin my tutorial of how to do this on my Instagram. I'll explain it to you right now, but it's a little easier to just watch the Instagram video if this doesn't land properly, and to make sure you actually go implement it. Just make the to do list as messy as you possibly can. Just get all the stuff down. And then, in order to prioritize it, you assign it either an A, a B, a C, a D, or an E. A means it is high priority and there are high consequences if I don't do it. So, one of those things might be for Michelle to feed Ollie. High priority and high consequences if she doesn't do it. B is high priority, but low consequences if it's not done, right? But there are still consequences. It is still important. So that might be like an email. Like, could you put it off? Yeah, but like the longer you put it off, the worse it's going to get. You know, like sometimes people need to see that you're responding quickly, or you could lose a client, or I mean, depends on the email, but other bad things can happen. The third one, C. It's a priority item, but there's no consequence if it's not done. Like the video Michelle was just breaking down that she has to make. There's really no consequence if you don't do that. Obviously, it's still on the to do list, though. Therefore, it's still a priority. But you got to start with the A's and the B's first. Sometimes, though, I'll just go do a C real quick because it takes less than 5 minutes just to create some momentum, because the A items are often challenging and take more time. So you don't always have to do that, but it just helps to have the priority. Sometimes I'm like, I just got to cross something off. You know, make the bed, I give it a C. It's important, but there's nothing that happens if I don't do it. So when I just need a quick win, maybe I forgot to, or, you know, I wasn't ready yet in the morning, I had something to go rush out and do, I'll just cross that off, and then I'll be ready for a B or an A. D is items that I delegate to someone else. Still want them on the to-do list, though. Still need to keep track of it. Laundry, I'll put it as a D because there's still a little bit required from me. I gotta go leave it out. I gotta go put it in the bag that they give me. So, but overall, it's a D. I delegate it to someone else. And E, things that I either eliminate or extend. You'd be surprised how many things on your to-do list you could kind of just eliminate. Like, we think it's important, then you see the whole list and you're like, I don't even need to do that really. Or you give it an E if you're like, I'm going to extend that, right? Like, I need more time. I don't know yet, or I'm going to tackle it in the future. And then at least you don't lose it. It's still on your list, but you're excused right now and it's not taking up mental bandwidth because you're like, I extended that one. This is key for me. I've tried a million project management softwares, Slack, Notion, all of them, literally all of them, Asana, ClickUp. I've used all of these. Nothing works better than an ABCDE list. You could do those on there. I like doing it on paper, but currently I use Slack to do it just so that my assistant can at least see the things. But like, I have an ABCDE list in Slack. Um, you could go look at it, Michelle. Everyone has access to it. This has always worked for me to prioritize and execute, because if you can't prioritize things, you're not going to execute on them, and you're not going to do it in the right order. That's for sure.
And prioritize them before you have to start doing them. Again, reiterating that. I cannot tell you how big of a difference it makes when you make your list before you have to actually do the things. I don't know why this happens, but it's just like prioritizing, cool, now I'm gonna go do whatever or not do whatever, and then it's like, now it's time to get started. Boom. And it's so much easier because it's almost like I have somebody that's delegating tasks to me that I need to get done, and I know I'm in charge of what I do all day, especially being self-employed. But it's so much easier when I put myself on a deadline, when I have myself holding me accountable. Obviously now I have assistants doing that, but it's the same thing. It's just like, we have to do this. We need some structure as human beings. Even if the structure is, okay, you're going to spend the last 4 hours of your workday doing just creating. There's no structure to the creating, but there's structure in the time that you're allotting for the creating.
I love thinking about this and how other people tackle these things. I love hearing how you do it too. I mean, I know how you do these things, but like even before we had assistants, like our process was the same. Like I don't want any of our listeners to be like, oh, but I don't have an assistant, so I can't do that, or I don't have a cold plunge, so I can't do that. Like, y'all, we were doing these things even before we started this podcast. That was why we wanted to start a podcast. We were like, oh, we're really similar and we do a lot of really similar things. Like I used to cold plunge in the bathtub of my parents' upstairs bathroom that I didn't even really fit in. Like you can make it work. I promise that you can. And I would just write my ABCDE lists down while I was at work at my civil engineering job. I would plan out what is my night going to look like. Like after I get home at 5 or 6, and I know I got to work another 6 hours in order to one day quit this job. What are all the things I got to get done? And I make the list and I don't get everything done on it. And I don't beat myself up. I carry some items over to the next day if I didn't get to them. And so, with the combination of like disciplining yourself by doing hard things, the 5 minute rule, getting quick wins under your belt when you're feeling stuck, movement, right? If you're feeling really stagnant, get on the treadmill, go for a quick walk, just move your body, do 10 push ups, your ability to prioritize and execute. And Michelle, am I missing any? Maybe a little emotional detachment sometimes.
Yeah. Also, the worst thing you can do when you feel this way is to scroll on social media, scroll through your email. The worst thing you can do is distract yourself with things that you feel will give you the thing you're craving, which is like dopamine, right? And you might think you're doing productive things, but you're not. And so that is just like a huge no-no, at least for me personally. Like I cannot, therefore, go do things that are going to falsely feel like I'm being productive. I always, at the end of the day, I'm like, what did I do? Why did I do that? What was that for? And it's because I needed it, but there are other more productive ways to go about these things, which is what we're here to help you guys do. Because obviously, we're not like making this up like we're the first people to discover this. We just have success. We have seen how it's worked for us. And the difference between us and people that aren't doing this is massive based on their careers, like it's massive based on what their goals are. Some people feel like life happens to them and not for them. And it's like, no, we just have to take a little bit of control of the things we can control and let go of things we can't control. Mel Robbins' Let Them Theory, highly recommend that book. So fucking good. But yeah, I think that anybody listening to this obviously is like amazing because this is a growth podcast.
Yeah, you guys are already doing a good job. And if you think we're doing a good job, go give us that 5-star review and that comment. I asked 3 times today because it matters to me. And we're coming up on 100 episodes. We have so many people that love the show, but we don't have nearly enough rankings to actually demonstrate how much you guys love it. Like we see how much you guys love it, but you're not showing us the love in the way that we need to receive it, which is those 5-star reviews on whatever you're listening, throwing us the like and dropping the review. That really, really matters to us. So if you got some value from this, please take a moment to do it. And don't forget to check us out on our socials. You can find me at Get Ahead with Nick on pretty much everything. You can find Michelle at Michelle JH. That's Michelle with 2 L's, 4 E's, JH. You can get some short form clips from us just to remind you all these important lessons, or you can watch on YouTube at Creation to Cashflow. And we love you guys so much. I can't wait to continue doing this. 2 more episodes till 100. Super exciting. We're grateful for you guys, the listeners, and hopefully you're enjoying it and share that love back. Bye, guys.